Good day, good day. It's God Says Ministries, the House of Fire, and I'm Prophet Tavis. So, breaking the narrative. Breaking the narrative. You know, I don't know how many videos I'm going to have like this, but I thought, let's start and let's put the truth out there and let the chips fall where they fall. But breaking the narrative, this video, if it's only one or many, we're going for the jugular vein straight away. So, here is a narrative that is out there and that has exploited the fear that has been going on for the last 2 years, and now has no place really to hide. And you'll see later in the video why I say hide, because of God, basically. And it's a narrative that's out there that they are trying to see how many objections come through, and literally how brainwashing they have achieved of the masses, that the masses do not hear or understand exactly what they are saying. So I want you to listen very, very, very careful to what this evil sodomite is speaking about, because he's speaking about you and your future.
Because in the coming generations, we will learn how to engineer bodies and brains and minds. Now, how exactly will the future masters of the planet look like? This will be decided by the people who own the data. Now, why is data so important? It's important because we've reached the point when we can hack not just computers, we can hack human beings and other organisms. Now, what do you need in order to hack a human being? You need two things. You need a lot of computing power, and you need a lot of data, especially biometric data. But control of data might enable human elites to do something even more radical than just build digital dictatorships. By hacking organisms, elites may gain the power to re-engineer the future of life itself. Because once you can hack something, you can usually also engineer it. All of life, for 4 billion years, dinosaurs, amoebas, tomatoes, humans, all of life was subject to the laws of natural selection and to the laws of organic biochemistry. But this is now about to change. Science is replacing evolution by natural selection with evolution by intelligent design. Not the intelligent design of some god above the clouds, but our intelligent design and the intelligent design of our clouds. The IBM cloud, the Microsoft cloud, these are the new driving forces of evolution. And at the same time, science may enable life, after being confined for 4 billion years to the limited realm of organic compounds, science may enable life to break out into the inorganic realm. Humans are now hackable animals. You know, the whole idea that humans have, you know, they have this soul or spirit and they have free will and nobody knows what's happening inside me. So whatever I choose, whether in the election or whether in the supermarket, this is my free will, that's over. Free will, that's over.
That's over.
Over. Today, we have the technology to hack human beings on a massive scale. Yeah, I mean, everything is being digitalized. Everything is being monitored. In this time of crisis, you have to follow science. It's often said that you should never allow a good crisis to go to waste. because a crisis is an opportunity to also do good reforms that in normal times people will never agree to. But in a crisis, you see, we have no chance. So let's do it.
Vaccine won't help us go
The
to the
vaccine
test, of course.
will help us, of course. It will make things, more manageable.
Surveillance, people could look back in 100 years and identify the coronavirus epidemic as the moment when a new regime of surveillance took over, especially surveillance under the skin, which I think is maybe the most important development of the 21st century, is this ability to hack human beings, to go under the skin, collect biometric data, analyze it, and understand people better than they understand themselves. This, I believe, is maybe the most important event of the 21st century.
By hacking organisms, elites may gain the power to re-engineer the future of life itself. Because once you can hack something, you can usually also engineer it.
Natural selection is replaced by intelligent design. The era of inorganic life is now beginning.
In the coming decades, AI and biotechnology will give us godlike abilities to re-engineer life and even to create completely new life forms. We are about to enter a new era of inorganic life shaped by intelligent design. Our intelligent design.
So that was Yuval Noah Harari. And he said a lot of things in that short clip. A lot of things. And I just want to put a focus on one thing right now.
Surveillance, people could look back in 100 years and identify the coronavirus epidemic as the moment when a new regime of surveillance took over, especially surveillance under the skin, which I think is maybe the most important development of the 21st century, is this ability to hack human beings, to go under the skin, collect biometric data, analyze it, and understand people better than they understand themselves. This, I believe, is maybe the most important event of the 21st century.
People will look back in 20 or 30 or 100 years from now and realize that the COVID pandemic was the first time that surveillance went under the skin. How does surveillance go under the skin? Well, they're pushing a experimental injection for everyone, and there's no other way to get surveillance under the skin than through a experimental injection. But if you look at the rest of the video, he is talking about literally changing humans, the God-created human, into a computerized, controlled cow that can be manipulated and watched and controlled by what he calls himself and the rest of the people that are with him, which I'm going to pull out some now, the elite. So he considers himself an elite. He is talking not to just anyone. He is talking to Joe Biden in the audience. He is talking to Macron in the audience. He is talking to a number of celebrities that we watch in movies in the audience. He is talking to governments that are supposedly governing countries. These are the people that are in his audience. And DiCaprio is one of them. Tom Hanks is one of them. Oprah is one of them. So there is a number of people, along with the Clintons, and that are sitting in the audience and clapping and agreeing with what he is putting out. They call him the prophet. Now, I'm a prophet of God, so I'm going to come from the side of a prophet. I'm going to come from the side of creation, and I'm going to come from the side of pointing out that there is only one that is in control here, and that one is the devil himself. These people have sold their souls to the devil. These people are psychopaths. A bunch of psychopaths that have gotten together to rule the world, to change you into a robot that they can control, even if it's starting by putting a chip in your brain or an experimental injection, that if they do not like what you are doing or saying, they can hit the off switch and you are no longer. Yeah. So, the narrative for years, decades, has been evolution, natural selection. In other words, survival of the fittest. Yet now we have, I'm going to use the old term, nerds, who believe they have worked out a way to be the fittest. And by turning the human race into nothing more than puppets for their entertainment. God warned of these when the pandemic was in its beginnings. This very pandemic that has put fear across the entire world into many that are following the brainwashing of the mainstream media. This entire pandemic is to achieve one thing, a goal in mind, to see how many they could control and how far they can push the limit of people before they broke. And you see, they cannot. The problem they have is the United States Second Amendment. And the Second Amendment of the United States, the country that if it sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold, if they cannot get rid of the guns in the population, in the citizens of the United States, this whole experiment that they've done is futile. And if many countries sign on to doing exactly what the citizens of the United States are doing right now, and they will have you believe they are a minority, but the majority of the citizens of the United States are up in arms against this. So on the 7th of April 2020, God spoke this word to me. And it's extremely relevant to what's been going on. So this was the 7th of April 2020. God says, the enemy is working hard to call what is evil good. Decades of lies has put them in high and trustworthy positions. Now, many have idolized them for decades and don't see the snake oil in their hands. Now they seek to open the gates to a sleeping snake and called it good. Sound familiar? No more will they sell their snake oil to my people. I will pull the veil down, which they hide behind, and reveal their nakedness to the world. Too long have they scudded around like rats in the darkness, spreading their poisonous lies to a people blinded to the truth behind the veil of deception. I will shake the earth and cause light to enter. Every stone will be overturned and exposed, revealing the snakes that slumber beneath them. Now, many people have said, they have used this term, conspiracy theorist. Tavis, you are a conspiracy theorist. You're not a prophet. You're just a conspiracy theorist. Yet, conspiracy theorists that have voiced their opinion have all been vindicated, and every so-called conspiracy they were talking about has become truth. We can talk about the Russiagate. We can talk about the collusion with Russia. Donald Trump colluded with Russia. 2 years the mainstream media spouted these lies, knowing fully well that they were lying, and brainwashed millions of people into believing that Donald Trump was a Russian puppet. Except for the conspiracy theorists, who said this is a hoax. This is a plan of the deep state and Hillary Clinton to try and destroy Trump. 2 years down the line, 2.5 years down, after many investigations and what have you, they revealed they could not find any evidence of Trump colluding with Russia. Now we have court cases that come out recently that reveal the only collusion going on was with Hillary Clinton and her campaign with Russians. Not Russia, Russians. They colluded with Russians to produce a dossier, which is the Steele dossier, which was just a hoax from the front to the back of the dossier, all lies. So we have that. We have the mainstream media talking about Hunter Biden and his laptop as being Russian disinformation. You see, when they got nothing else, they have to blame the bear. The bear has been hibernating for years, but the bear is one to blame. He's the one that's gotten into the garbage and messed it all up. And it is the bear's fault. So, now they seek to open the gates to a sleeping snake and call it good. You heard what they are wanting to do. They want to hack you. They want to have surveillance under your skin so they know your every move. They want to hack you so much that they want to know what you are thinking every minute of the day, so they can control the narrative going forward. So here we have Noah Harari, or Yuval Noah Harari, a so-called Jewish man, a professor, a sodomite, who's married to a man, and he has decided that he is the elite and you will obey what he has to offer. He is the prophet of the elite, the New World Order, and they have decided that they are the best to run the country. They said that he's talking about manufacturing human beings. If you can hack them, you can also manufacture them. One problem. No human being has ever created anything out of nothing. No one. Their narrative has been evolution, natural selection, for decades. Now that narrative is getting thrown out the water, and it's become the elite decides who lives and dies, and how are you going to live under their control. So evolution right here disappears out of the window along with the bathwater. The narrative is now changing. The Word of God spoke about, I will expose them, and there will be no rock or hiding place for them. Literally, they have been exposed, but they're using the opportunity of the exposure in front of you. They got no place to hide, so they are talking about the very thing that they want to do in the next 10 years. In the next 10 years to the human race. But not one of them has ever created anything. I just took a photograph right here, as you can see, of a Christmas cactus in my yard that belonged to my late mother. I propped it up again, put it in a bigger container, and it's blooming. Since I got back from India, I walked in and this thing was blooming. Now, the detail just in the flowers has to be from an intelligent design. Yet, Noah would have you think that it's not the God above the clouds, but the cloud itself that is the God, which is controlled by gods themselves, elites, is more powerful, has more authority, and can do more than the Creator who created everything. They are saying they can manufacture this Christmas cactus in all of it. Now, the detail and the odds of that being 100% is about a trillion, about 100 trillion to 1. Because this plant started off as a seed that died and rose again into and germinated to become a small seedling, and it over the years grew using the soil and the water that fell from heaven to grow into this magnificent Christmas cactus. Then at a certain time of the year, winter, here in South Africa, bloom to provide pollen for bees that are hovering around it. And that pollen, in turn, cultivates another Christmas cactus or other flowers that utilize the cross-pollination to germinate a seed that dies and rises again to form new life. There is no man on earth that can do that. There's no computer on earth that can do that. You can put a plant out there that you have manipulated to represent your achievement, but you cannot grow that plant from nothing. They said they can manufacture from nothing, and create a plant. You see, there's a problem here that he is not saying. He has to take from God's creation that God created, and he has to manipulate it in order to give you the finished product. He has to take the human and manipulate it to give you transhumanism. He cannot take nothing and create what God created. So, his delusion of being a god and an elite is the problem in his mind. The mind of a psychopath. So now we got a bunch of psychopaths trying to run the country, the world, believing that they can create things, forgetting that they have to take creation itself, even to build a computer, and manipulate it to do what they wanted to do. But they cannot create anything. This is the characteristics of the devil. The devil cannot create anything. He has to take what God created and manipulate it and say he created something. But he's created nothing. He took what God did and he made a fake, unworthy, unproductive object. Unworthy, unproductive object. But these people, these psychopaths that are running the world, that have infiltrated all spheres of society, and want you to believe that they know what's best for you, believe that they are gods, and they can create. None of them can create anything. They took a common flu virus, manipulated it, and turned it into a half-deadly virus, just so they can give you an experimental injection. The prophecy that I spoke to you was on the 7th of April 2020. This was around about the period where they said, give it 2 weeks. Give it 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Lock us down for 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Well, that was 2 years ago. We still see masks walking around. Masks that have no effect. Literally, it's like putting pantyhose on to stop mosquitoes biting you. You know, I'm going to Uganda in less than a month's time, and mosquitoes love the black shirts. And this is a fairly thick shirt. Yet a mosquito will put his mouth right through that shirt, this shirt, and bite me on the other side. So masks that you are wearing around is literally putting stockings on your legs so mosquitoes do not bite you, or putting chicken wire over your house so mosquitoes don't come in. But yet everybody has been brainwashed into believing this is science. Believing this is science. And this has been a big experiment to see how many people they can control. 7.7 billion people on the earth is very hard to control. So they have to bring the population down somehow. They have to bring it down somehow. And as Yuval Noah Harari said, in 20, 30, or 100 years' time, people will look back at this virus and realize it was the first time the surveillance went under the skin. You see, I'm a prophet of God, and I have to foretell what God is going to do. You see, the Word of God says God does nothing unless He first reveals it to His prophets. And that's a law that God has put in place. And that law is being followed by the very devil that is trying to kill you. In other words, he has to reveal what he's about to do and wanting to do before he does it. So he uses idiots, stupid people like this, people that have sold their soul to him, to put out his narrative before he does it. Here is Yuval Noah Harari. He is praised by Barack Obama. He is praised by the Clintons. He is praised by many celebrities that we know well on the TV. He is praised by many governments that are part and parcel of this. They call him the prophet. He is the false prophet. He is a false prophet. He is one of the prophets that puts out the devil's agenda, the devil's narrative, in order for the devil to accomplish what he has to do. God speaks to his prophets first before he does anything. He reveals it to his prophets first. The prophets speak it out. I might have a portion, Robin Bullock might have a portion, and Amanda Grace might have a portion, Hank Kuhneman might have a portion, but he reveals it out, that all the portions line up with one thing in common, and the whole map of God is starting to come out. This is the same with the devil. He cannot do something without your permission. In other words, he puts out what he wants to do, and if you do not object, then you've opened the door for him to come in. Now, there's a great awakening on the horizon. A great awakening on the horizon. And many people have woken up already. But many are still fast asleep. I just did a test run on a group here, a big group on Facebook, just to see how many are still brainwashed by watching the television mainstream news. And the comments I got were from people who can't see and can't hear, who have no ability to see or no ability to hear, or are just plain lazy and expecting somebody else to sort it out. And I guarantee you many of these people have got the experimental injection. You see, when COVID hit, the numbers for COVID went through the roof. But if you really look at the numbers, people who died with COVID were added in. So if you were in a car accident and you perished in the car accident, and they checked you and found out that the virus, even though you had no symptoms or anything, was in you, you died of COVID. So out of the millions that died, according to the authorities, 5% actually died of COVID. 5% actually died of COVID. And many of that 5% were manipulated into their death through many hospitals. They got lots of money for each person that went through the hospital and ended up on their morgue. The money grew each time, every phase in the hospital, especially in the United States, where the protocol was remdesivir, the drug to use. Remdesivir was infamous for kidney failure. Kidney failure leads to lungs filling up with water, leads to a ventilator, and which leads to death. And $100,000 for each death of COVID was paid to the hospital. Now, I don't know if this is going to stay on YouTube very long, but I know it'll be on Rumble, and I know it'll be on Telegram. And whether it stays on Facebook, I don't know. So I might end up in Facebook jail. But it's time that you are awakened from your slumber and that you get off the couch and get your butt into action and realize that they want to turn you into a controlled, half human, half robot. And if they don't like what you are doing, they flip the switch and switch you off. The thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. But I have come to give life, and life in abundance. This is the episode of Breaking the Narrative. And we've gone straight for the jugular vein. Governments, evil governments, have been paid millions to enforce a protocol that is not scientific, never was, but it was initiated to cause fear in the population, and was initiated to see how many people they could control and how many people would fall for their lies and deception. For their lies and deception. I just came back from India. 1.4 billion people live in India. 98% of the people aren't walking around with masks. If this wasn't a pandemic, I would have seen bodies lying in the street. But yet I saw nothing. Nothing. And everyone that is in hospital now with COVID that was patented firstly in 2006 and over the years has been repatented latest in 2018, I think, was created in a lab to release on the public, to scare the hell out of you of something that had no power whatsoever, had to be manipulated by hospitals and wicked, wicked people, greedy for money, into giving it power, so that they could achieve their goal of injecting you with experimental drug that carried the surveillance under the skin. And the numbers that have been reported that have had adverse effects with this drug doesn't even register. We're talking about 20 million people that are no longer with us, that nobody has reported. Just in soccer, the last count, and that was months ago, was like over 150 professional soccer players from the age of 18 to 30 dropping dead on the soccer field with heart attacks. That's just soccer. And that number, I know, is way higher now. And many cannot play soccer anymore because their hearts will give out. But nothing of this is reported on the fake mainstream media. All you'll have is the narrative they want you to have. The narrative to herd you in to the pens for the slaughter. For their objective and their need is to drop the population from 7.7 billion people to 500 million, so they can control that 500 million, because they cannot control 7.7 billion. They cannot create anything. God is the only creator. There's nothing that they can create. They can manipulate God's creation through drugs, through pandemics, but they cannot create the basic, simple seed that dies and rises again to form new life on the earth. God bless you, and may His favor drip from every part of you. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.